Hello from Sydney, Australia, live. I'm Camden Walker for Capital Weather Gang. Different seasons, but similar temperatures. It is going to be near 70 degrees here, if not a little higher here in Sydney, Australia today. Right now, 66.5, a little bit muggier though than DC, at least for the time being, where dew points here are above 60 degrees, 61, 62 degrees for a dew point in Fahrenheit, that is. And here are the seasonal averages for Australia. I'm not here during quite the hottest time of year here in the Sydney area, but it still can be averaging upper 90s here in the northern tropical regions in the interior part of Australia, and it's still fairly wet in Sydney especially. It is a wet time of year here in late summer and March. The typical time frames for this, the rain is in the morning. As you can see, it's clearing off slowly behind me, but averages right here. It's cooling off compared to January, which is the peak of summer here in Sydney. 70s for high temperatures still here in March on this column. And you can see still fairly wet, 4 inches of rain or so expected for this month as well. No snow, Greg. I'm sorry. Good day, Kevin. Brent, thanks for watching. And Drew, hello. And Greg Hudson, thanks so much for tuning in. Here's the still summertime day length here in Sydney, Australia, 12 and a half hours. Here's DC approaching 12 hours because, of course, the equinox is coming for everybody right around March 21. Even though, yes, I'm 15 hours ahead of you in DC, we're not quite there yet for a 12-hour day length at the equinox in DC, but it's getting there. Here's our average high, slowly warmer and warmer. By midweek this week, we've got 55 degrees for an average high temperature, but look at this for tomorrow, much above average. Upper 60s to low 70s tomorrow. Ooh, it is going to be a little bit sweaty there in DC. I mean, that's all because of this warm front coming through, moving to the north in DC tomorrow. For details, though, I want you to go to our latest forecast, cwg.news/latest. Greg Porter, who I think submitted this from Scotland while I'm in Sydney, he gives you the latest details on capitalweathergang.com. And again, the week ahead, here's the overview, maybe not the details you can expect from capitalweathergang.com, which we're there on the blog 24/7, no matter what time zone we're in. We've got up and down temperatures this week, a couple cold fronts coming through, showers getting set off with some wind on Tuesday, and then cooling off again into the weekend behind that second cold front. So it's spring-like, topsy-turvy, the jet stream near DC this time of year, so temperatures and weather moves quickly up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster, but hey, not too hot, not too cold. It's a decent time of year in DC and here in Sydney, another transition season, which, feels pretty good. Dew points, 62, a little bit muggier here in late summer is the season here in Sydney, Australia. Let's check the temperature one more time before I take some questions. 68, and probably heading into the 70s in Fahrenheit here today. It's still early, about 15 hours ahead of DC. I'm about, 10:21 a.m. here, yes. So let's take some questions really quick before we go into the seasonal averages here in Sydney for late summer and what we're expecting as we head into spring slowly in DC. All right, no, Kevin, I'm here on my own. And Denver, thanks so much for tuning in. Cheers to you as well. Cheers, mate. And Tam, thanks so much. Yes, I've got the summer gear, white hats, and the white polo shirt because it is warm and fairly muggy here. Greg, thanks for tuning in. And Brent, again, thanks for tuning in as well. Let me know if you have any questions for the work week ahead there in DC. It's still Sunday, but Monday here in Sydney, where the seasonal averages in this part of Australia, not as hot as the tropical north and the interior deserts of Australia, but it's still a little bit wet this time of year. Late summer again is the season. We're transitioning into fall here into Sydney, but let's zoom in on the Sydney area. Still pretty wet, expecting about 4 inches of rain this time of year. You notice along the coast, it is the wettest here in this part of Australia. And I've noticed the daily habits of the rain. It rains a little bit more in the morning and clears off in the afternoon. Here are the seasonal averages for summer here in Australia. January, of course, being the hottest month this part of the world. In the southern hemisphere, the seasons are opposite from DC. Look at that record high. Oof. Pretty close to DC's record high in January, but luckily cooling off a little bit here in March. 70s for an average high temperature. Rain, about 4 inches of rain there in the green. And look at the days of rain. It is kind of a frequency of rain here in March as we transition from summer into fall. Here's the sunset and sunrise times day length over 12 hours because the equinox has not happened here in Australia. Still a summertime length of day here in Sydney. We're getting there in DC. Here's DC's day length approaching 12 hours. It's borrowing here from the day length in the southern hemisphere as the Earth slowly tilts back during the equinox, eventually into summer. The northern hemisphere will tilt back toward the sun and longer days will start again in DC. Average high temperature, 55 degrees in DC, but we're above average tomorrow. Look at these, upper 60s for high temperatures, maybe low 70s in some of the area if you're away from water. It is a little bit warm for this time of year in DC and in Sydney. I mean, that's what's funny. It is late summer here in Sydney and late winter there in DC, and yet a very similar week ahead. If you look at the forecast, up and down we go a little bit. A couple cold fronts coming through there in DC, and showers here and there, especially Tuesday. The first cold front comes through with some wind, some showers on Tuesday, and then a little peak of warmth there on Friday, potentially ahead of the next cold front, which cools us down for the weekend. But lower confidence, as you can see, indicated by the wide breadth there, the wide color ranges on the weather modeling system there in the background. Several different model solutions are possible for the weekend, so stay tuned to capitalweathergang.com. And for the latest, go to cwg.news/latest. Touching on my face, you'll see all the links that we're talking about pop up below. Greg Porter submitted this from Scotland, our PM update. We've got, no matter what time zone we're in, we're available 24/7 on the blog, capitalweathergang.com, and this is available at cwg.news/latest. All right, Denver, thanks. I'm enjoying. Australia should be on your bucket list. And yes, Vancouver 2 weeks ago was 50 every day. Not too bad there in a maritime climate. Margaret, thank you, NSW Archives, for me. I'm sorry I can't pick up your documents. That's great. I did go to the gallery here in New South Wales, and it was pretty great. Hey, Tina, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you enjoyed today. We gave it a pretty decent rating, a 9 out of 10 there in DC. Lisa, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Justin, thanks for tuning in. And I have any questions I can answer for you about current averages here in Australia and the work week ahead in DC. Similar forecasts, similar temperatures despite opposite seasons. Late summer here in Sydney, Australia, late winter in DC, but we are looking at similar temperatures with 60s, 70s somehow in the forecast for late winter, despite average high temperature in the mid 50s for DC this time of year. All right, we have a cold front coming in on Tuesday, bringing some rain to DC, hopefully clearing out some of that pollen. Allergy sufferers, you're not imagining it. In DC, moderate tree pollen. It's probably, I'm glad to be avoiding some of that, but take those allergy medicines. And here's the air quality from that burn in Quantico today. That should improve with the precipitation by Tuesday, and the controlled burn is over at least, and we have more on the blog, capitalweathergang.com. We have covered this as well today. And of course, follow us on Twitter, Capital Weather. Dave Statter had this great photo of the DC air quality issue earlier today. And luckily it is over. That Quantico control burn is over. So let me know if you have any other questions. And skiers and snow lovers, just head to higher elevations 4 hours west of DC. You can still find some snows at high elevations. Go to cwg.news/slopecast if you are looking for snow or needing some skiing. We've got that for you on the blog as well. Drought is, and the brush fires are under control here, Kyle. That is a great question and great news. I hope to meet with the Bureau of Meteorology in a couple weeks and I can get details for you. But the good news is the air quality here, the brush fires, and the drought appear to be over. We're getting daily rains most mornings here in Sydney. And Denver, the cherry blossom peak, go to capitalweathergang.com. We predicted a few days ago right around March 28th for the peak cherry blossom bloom there in DC. All right, the pollen is going to be a little high there, Charlene. I'm glad you asked. I just showed the chart on that. Here we go. Moderate is what we can expect for much of this week, especially with high temperatures getting into the maybe upper 60s, low 70s a couple times this week. So do take those allergy medicines this week. If I was an allergy sufferer, I don't really like to see temperatures that are running this much above average in Washington, D.C. And again, as a reminder, our average is 55 degrees by midweek in D.C. And that's not what the temperatures are saying for forecast high temperatures tomorrow, upper 60s to low 70s. So get ready to be warm and maybe sniffle and sneeze a little bit there in DC as well. Yeah, David, flying here, coach, it was a very long, arduous trip on, at least there's only 2 airplanes, but it was one of the longer flights of my life. That is for sure. Tam is heading to Quebec in a couple weeks, searching for snow. Don't give up. That is a good place to search for snow. But of course, ski lovers, snow lovers can also head 4 hours west of DC and go to cwg.news/slopecast. We did cover this on the blog a couple days ago. So there is still hope at the higher elevation ski resorts if you're looking for some snow. And Tyler, I'm here just enjoying the weather and here for a wedding. So I thought I'd show you some great scenery. This is the Sydney Harbor Bridge behind me and the Sydney Opera House, fairly famous landmark. I had to give you some live viewing here from 15 hours into the future compared to Washington, D.C. Still sunset there in D.C., so I was trying to give you the same time frame of our Sunset Sunday broadcast. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Let me know if you have any last minute questions. I'll go over the seasonal averages here in Australia. And what's interesting about the weather here and in DC, they are matching forecasts despite different seasons. That's what's crazy. Late summer here, late winter in DC, but no matter. we have similar temperatures around the globe. It's between these two cities of DC and Sydney. All right, what else do I have here? Paul, should we be concerned about a very hot summer? It's too early to say. There in DC, we will of course keep you posted as we get near Memorial Day. That's when seasonal forecasting should have a little bit more confidence, but still never a high confidence forecast when looking that far into the future for an entire season. But for the latest outlook, we do have cwg.news/March outlook for our monthly outlook of March as well. All right, Justin says it looks like near 100 degrees in Sydney a week ago before this weekend's rains. Yes, indeed. David, I'm glad you could tune in. And going to Melbourne in a couple weeks and hoping to meet with the Bureau of Meteorology there as well. Oh, Christina, you were born here in NSW. Hello from home. This is fantastic. And I'm glad you're enjoying the scenery, Denver. Thanks, David, so much. I will enjoy. And Stephanie, hey, how are you doing there in DC? And Tam, Australia feels with koalas. I love all the emojis there. That's fantastic. And Tyler, thanks for tuning in. You're most kind. And I hope that you can enjoy the view as well and enjoy the temperatures, which are both similar here in Sydney and in Washington, D.C. the upcoming week. Here are the seasonal averages. 70s here in Sydney, but warmer, upper 90s, still seasonal averages for March. That is a hot interior desert and tropical region, northern parts of Australia. That equator, remember, is on the northern side of Australia. It's opposite here in the southern hemisphere. And let's zoom in on the March rainfall levels. Still pretty high here along the coast of Sydney, New South Wales right there. About 4 inches can be expected. Look at this number right here. 4.3 inches is the average March rainfall here in Sydney. Average temperatures in the 70s, but luckily it has cooled down. The peak summer temperatures here in January, and sunset and sunrise still equaling to over 12 hours of day length here in Sydney, because we have not quite approached the equinox. It's still late summer here. Late winter in DC as we approach the equinox means day length is growing toward 12 hours, but not quite there yet in DC. Average temperatures in DC 55 degrees, but won't feel like that tomorrow with upper 60s to low 70s. The week ahead, thanks to this warm front, starts out on a warm note. Go to the details on capitalweathergang.com or cwg.news/latest for this latest forecast by Greg Porter. Touching on my face, popping up below on your mobile device, you'll see all the links we're talking about. And again, similar temperatures and forecasts as here in Sydney for DC. This is the Washington, DC forecast. 60s, maybe some 70s this coming week. Some showers, a little bit of mugginess, but not quite as muggy as here in Sydney, where I've got a dew point above 60 degrees. Let's look at that really quick. 61.2 degree dew point here in Sydney. A little bit muggy, but of course it's late summer here as well. David, great koala photo emoji there. And oh, Sarah, you met your husband here in Australia. And Denver, mosquito activity could be a little elevated in DC because of the lack of hard freezes this winter. We had some, but I'm not optimistic we have mosquitoes under control for DC summer coming up. Thanks, Charlene. I will try and enjoy Australia. You're most kind. And let's finish up here really quick with the DC forecast for Tuesday. Showers coming in with a cold front should help wash out that pollen. Allergy sufferers, indeed, you're feeling it with these warmer temperatures there in Washington, D.C. It's March. The pollen is coming out. Moderate tree levels mean you need to take that allergy medicine. We should further wash out this air quality issue from today's controlled burn down in Quantico. We definitely got hazy and smoggy there in DC. I saw plenty of good pictures and reports. Hopefully you're following us on Twitter at Capital Weather for all the latest on that. And on the blog, capitalweathergang.com, we did have a story covered by the Washington Post as well today. And looking ahead, next work week still looking above average, which again is not quite 60 degrees there in Washington, D.C. So expect more warm temperatures overall in the coming days and maybe even the next work week as well. If you're dying for some snow, go to the ski resorts just 4 hours west of DC. Latest details, cwg.news/slopecast. I know snow lovers really got gypped. Only 0.6 inches of snow there in DC for this winter. And remember, another little detail, we got the Worm full moon coming up tonight, so make sure you saw the details on cwg.news/latest, the latest forecast or latest PM update. Details the supermoon coming up called the Worm Moon. I love the sound of birds here on Sydney Harbor. Last views before I go. The Sydney Harbor Bridge with the Australian flag there at the apex of the bridge. And of course, the famous Sydney Opera House. And despite different hemispheres and different seasons, it's really interesting to me that late summer here in Sydney, similar temperatures for late winter there in DC. I hope you enjoyed the view and enjoy the warmth, which we're going to share just between our cities of Sydney and Washington in the upcoming week. Safe travels to you as well, Tam, when you go to Quebec, and most kind, thanks for tuning in. I will be careful during my travels, and you, everyone, stay safe as well and enjoy the warm start to the upcoming work week, which once again, there in DC, similar to here, we've got 70s in the forecast. For the latest, go to capitalweathergang.com. I'll see you in a week. I will try and broadcast from, again, another place in Australia. And in a couple weeks, I'll meet with the Bureau of Meteorology, hopefully in Melbourne. Melbourne is how they say it locally here in Australia. So take care for now. Have a really good start to your work week. Thanks again for tuning in, Aaron and Tam. Bye for now.